The Gold Standards Framework Hospital Programme enables you to develop and use a systematic approach to deliver good end-of-life care to patients on your ward. It incorporates the same principles that are used in other GSF programmes, such as primary care and care homes, thereby promoting greater joined-up working. We believe that patients in the last stage of life are special and need extra special levels of active supportive care. This involves being more proactive with early recognition of patients that may be declining and may need extra support, using coding to ensure the right thing happens at each stage, and actively seeking the needs, wishes and preferences of patients and their families to be sure we are giving care in line with their wishes, and then planning ahead to help them live well and die well in the place and manner of their choosing. We know that approximately 1% of the population dies each year, and that the majority of people die in hospital, although most would prefer to die at home. At any one time, 30% of people in hospital are in their last year of life, and most people have 2 or 3 admissions to hospital in their last year of life. So admission to hospital is one of the predictors that their condition is deteriorating. The majority of people are elderly with multiple long-term conditions, frailty and dementia, as well as some cancer and other multimorbidities. With proactive planning, patients are more likely to receive good, coordinated end-of-life care in the place of their choice, in line with their wishes and preferences. GSF uses 3 key steps to enable this to happen: identification, assessment and planning. What proportion of the population dies each year? What percentage of patients in hospital are in their last year of life? What are the GSF 3 key steps? It is important that professionals can recognise the end stages of disease. The prognostic indicator guidance is a tool which can help with this process. As health and care professionals, we should ask, would I be surprised if this person were to die in the next year? If the answer is no, a patient should be considered to have supportive care needs and be placed on a supportive care register. If we don't know the answer, we should then consider general indicators of decline, such as weight loss, increased dependency, falls, or sentinel events. We should also consider specific indicators related to certain diseases. These indicators should identify patients to be considered for the Supportive Care Register, or GSF register, and they are offered active supportive care. Once identified, we use a red, amber, green coding system, depending on the patient's needs and stage of illness. Blue is for patients that are stable with a year or more to live. Green is for patients with advancing, unstable disease, probably with only months to live. Amber is for patients with further or rapid deterioration who may have just weeks to live. And red is for patients approaching their last days or hours of life. We also have purple for care after death and bereavement. GSF status and coding should be reviewed at your MDT meetings and your daily board round. Within the coding system, patients can move in either direction, depending on whether their condition deteriorates or improves. In order to plan care better, you can use either a needs support matrix or the GSF core care plans. These enable you to think about what needs to be done at each stage, so that care can be considered in advance, in alignment with patients' wishes, and crises can be avoided. Once a patient has been identified, we need to assess both their clinical and personal needs. You will be used to assessing clinical symptoms using either holistic or specific assessment tools. At this point, you may want to consider whether specialist support or advice is required. You may also want to address a patient's spiritual needs. All patients should be offered the opportunity to discuss their wishes and preferences regarding their care both now and in the future, and giving supporting information like this. This can occur opportunistically, where a patient volunteers information, or more systematically for every patient on your register. but both lead to having and recording an advanced care plan and ensuring this is later communicated to the GP. Naturally, a patient can decline if they do not wish to discuss this. There are three main elements to an advanced care plan: a statement of preferences or wishes, what is important to you, what would you want to happen, what would you not want to happen, who would speak for you, your preferred place of care, and so on. An advanced decision to refuse treatment relates to a specific intervention or treatment that the patient does not want to happen. This could include resuscitation. Finally, who will speak on behalf of the patient, either a lasting power of attorney for health and welfare or a recognised proxy. Importantly, this information should be documented and shared, with the patient's permission, with appropriate professionals, and, with the patient's permission, sent to an area-based electronic register. With GSF, we think that every appropriate person should be offered the chance to have an initial advanced care planning discussion. But a full discussion is not always possible or appropriate in hospital, so we suggest 3 steps. Firstly, an initial discussion should be introduced and a leaflet given for them to take home and discuss later with their family and GP. Secondly, they are asked about preferences for place of care, resuscitation discussion, and who would speak for them as an advanced statement. And thirdly, some people might want to have a fuller ACP discussion to include other aspects and refusals of care. In every case, this should be communicated in a discharge letter to the GP or care home for continued discussion later. The family and carers of patients are important because they are the key as to whether or not a patient can be cared for at home. It is important that carers' needs are assessed and referral made to appropriate agencies where necessary. What are the 3 steps to consider when identifying patients? What does the RAG coding mean? What are the 3 elements to advanced care planning? The third step is to plan care in line with patients' preferences, planning both living well and dying well. Many patients prefer to spend their last weeks and days at home, so effective discharge planning is important, and for some a rapid discharge plan is needed to get patients home quickly. Good communication with GPs and care homes is vital. We can use discharge letters, phone calls or electronic registers. Discharge letters to GPs should include a recommendation that the patient be included on their palliative care or GSF register, an estimation of their needs-based coding, the progress of their ACP discussion, and any additional information needed to give best care. If the patient is likely to be in their final weeks or days of life, it is important to include anticipatory medications and resuscitation forms so that carers are given an idea of what to do if their condition deteriorates. For patients who die in hospital, a personalised end-of-life care plan should be in place, as discussed with the family, reflecting the 5 priorities of care and the NICE guidance. Diagnosing dying can be difficult, but it's good to plan ahead, and some patients recover enough to be sent home with full support. The spiritual and religious needs of patients and their families should also be considered, and access provided to such support should they want it. In the final days, families and carers may need extra help with things like open visiting, free car parking, arranging accommodation, refreshments, and information about what to expect. People need to be given time to discuss their concerns. After death, staff should be sensitive to the needs of families when answering questions, giving a death certificate, collecting a patient's belongings, and providing information on local bereavement support. Hospital staff may also need support themselves and give time to debrief and reflect on the care they provided. Regular reflections and audits help to maintain consistently high standards of care and incorporate ideas to improve care further. What information should you include in the discharge summary? What guidance is there to support you when caring for patients who are in their last days of life? After a death, you need to take time to reflect. What GSF tool is useful to help you do this? Once GSF is fully implemented and embedded on your ward, you can progress to Accreditation and the GSF Quality Hallmark Award, which is supported by the British Geriatric Society and the Community Hospitals Association and recognised by the Care Quality Commission. This work is really important and greatly appreciated by both patients and their families. We need to encourage a compassionate culture of care on our wards all the time and with the whole team. Everyone has an important role to play, and we only have one chance to get it right. The Gold Standards Framework supports you in delivering a gold standard of care. The right care for the right person, in the right place, at the right time, every time. The kind of care we would like for our own family and for ourselves. Together, we can make it happen.